Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. And welcome to another Next Right Thing with Debbie Georgianni and Adam Blai. Now, today's scenario hits close to home for a lot of Catholic families out there. You know, your teenager comes back from youth group, unsettled by something the priest said. You dig a little deeper, and it sounds heretical, but there's no recording, just your teen's account. So, what would you do? It's a good question, and the phone lines are open. So if you have a perspective, give us a call, 877-757-9424. But good morning, Debbie and Adam.
Good morning, Keith. Thank you so much for having us on the Next Right Thing, and happy Monday to you, the last day of June. Can you believe we are turning the page and heading into July? This year is just flying by. But this scenario, this what would you do scenario that we are painting today, Adam, I have actually seen it play out many times as a youth minister. And so I definitely want to tackle this with the Morning Joy listeners, but we're opening up the phone lines. We'd like to hear your response, your take on this. 877-757-9424. That's the number to call. The scenario is this: your teen comes home from youth group and they report to you as the parent that something confusing was said by father during the session, and you went with a little, upon further research, you said, well, if the teen is correct, if they heard it correctly, this is kind of a heretical statement. What do? Do you go to the youth minister? Do you go to the pastor? Do you go to the bishop? Do you say nothing because you don't want it to come back and hurt your child, because your child, you want your child to go to youth group? I've seen this many times. Adam, I'll let you start first.
Well, of course, this is a touchy and difficult situation. So, you mentioned that there's no recording to be absolutely sure what was said, right?
Mm-hmm. No recordings. You're taking your high schooler's word for it.
Right. So the first two things is, it's always good to initially go to the person, in question that may have said something like this, and simply ask, maybe my son misunderstood. Can you tell me, is this what you said on this day? And so, number one, check it out that way. Give the person a chance to respond. And maybe you'll find out, like, no, that's not exactly what I said. I was actually referring to these other people say this. Mm-hmm. And, they just missed part of the sentence. So it's really important to go to the person at least once. Try to verify things. Then, if something was said that could...
Okay, but stop right there, because I like what you said. Let me just comment on that. Mm-hmm. And we're opening up the phone lines. We want our listeners to weigh in on this. Your teen comes home, is very confused about something that father said at youth group, at Life Teen, or one of the youth groups, whatever you call it, at your parish. And they come back and they report to you as the parent, hey, father said this. You said, oh, that doesn't sound right. That sounds a bit heretical. What would you do? Okay, very important. 877-757-9424 is the number. Please call in. Okay, you said go to the person. Now, there is a youth minister in place, Adam. If it's a kind of Life Teen group, or whatever the parish calls it as a teen group, there's usually a young adult youth minister in place. So do you go to the youth minister? Do you go to the priest that actually said it? What I would suggest, if you're going to go and get clarification on what was said during that youth session, how I would phrase it, just because you don't want it to hurt your teen, right? You want your teen to continue to feel comfortable going to youth group. I would say this: can I ask you just generally what was said at youth group last night or last week, right? Just a general statement. I would not, if it were me as a parent, I would not say my son or daughter came home and told me this, because the moment you label your son or daughter, you start to, it just kind of, how do I say this? It makes them kind of the target, if indeed something was heard incorrectly. Now that it's going to come back around to possibly making the teen feel uncomfortable. So that would be the first thing I would say, just to keep it more general, and see if you can get a response on maybe what exactly what they talked about in session, right? Okay, and Adam, we've got calls coming in, but go ahead, continue.
Well, the second thing is, So one, it's really important. Go to the actual person first. I think it's important. And then if something confusing was said, or God forbid, something really against the church teaching was said, either of those, honestly, the pastor does want to know that kind of stuff. The pastor's responsible for all the ministry that goes on in the parish. Everybody is their spiritual child that they're caring for.
But what if it was the pastor?
Well, then you approach them and say, well, I'm not, I'm just a lay person, but it seems to me that's against church teaching. And you go to them first and see what they do with it. Now, because some people jump straight to going to the bishop's office or the diocese in some way, it's really helpful to at least give the person one chance to respond before
I totally agree.
Yeah, because it's not seen as like a healthy and a good thing that's taken very seriously when somebody says, like, so and so said this, and they didn't approach them, they didn't clarify it, they didn't get verification, and they jumped over their head and they're approaching the diocese.
Exactly, I totally agree. So let's go to the phones, Adam, if that's okay with you. I'm rushing a little bit because I want to squeeze in. We got a couple calls coming in. If you'd like to join these fine folks that are going to weigh in on this, what would you do scenario? It's 877-757-9424. Our first caller is Abby. Abby's from Oklahoma, and she's going to weigh in on this topic. Hello, Abby.
Hello, good morning. I am a youth leader. So, when I heard the question, I just kind of thought, I know how my girls are. I mean, they'll come to me with, some crazy things, and I know that sometimes they misinterpret or they could misinterpret things that are said. So definitely I would trust, but verify what they're taking back home. And I'm not saying, that kids are dumb or they don't know what they've heard, but I would definitely maybe call, one of the youth leaders or just say, hey, what actually was said? This is what they came back with. But I'm sure that, a lot of times there could be something that was crazy, off the wall that was said, but definitely, trust what they're saying, but definitely verify.
Abby, how do you say your town in Oklahoma? How do you say your town? Guyman?
Guyman.
Guyman. Okay, I just want to make sure. So Abby's calling in from Guyman, Oklahoma. So Adam, so Abby's saying similar to what we're saying, that to make sure to verify exactly what was said in that youth group session that night. And Abby, I don't know if you heard this when you were calling in, but I was saying that just to protect your teen, just keep it kind of general. Like, don't say my kid came home, ran home, opened the door and started, saying all these things that was said in youth group. Just kind of keep it general and find out what exactly happened in that session. Do you agree with that?
Right, 100%. But a lot of times, those kids will come with questions, and you have to really make sure that you know what you're talking about, because you don't ever want to, think that you know something, and give them an answer that you're not 100% sure about. And I know we're talking about the priest, but it could be, the youth leaders as well.
Right. Right. Absolutely. What do you say, Adam, to Abby?
Yeah. And, the next thing I wanted to point out, Deb, if you go to the level of reporting something to the diocese and you feel that you didn't make progress with the person that said it or the pastor, don't do it anonymously. And the reason I say that is generally anonymous complaints are not followed through on, generally, because it's just, so if you're going to do it, I would say, number one, do it in writing. If you're going to approach the diocese, give all the facts, keep it brief and factual, and put your name on it. Right. And that it's going to get more action that way.
Yeah, and I think we even have a policy here in the diocese I live in, that if it comes in anonymous, it's rarely ever addressed because of that reason. So Abby, thank you so much for weighing in on this scenario today. God bless you and have a beautiful rest of your day. We're going to say hello to Patricia from Odessa, Texas, who wants to weigh in on this what would you do scenario as well. Hi, Patricia, welcome.
Well, good morning. Thank you to both of you. Again, we're just so always inspired, and we just thank you for your mission and your vocation. In my situation, what happened is that, and this happened many years ago, one of my daughters came to me and said, hey, a CCD teacher told us that Mary was just a really figure of speech, and we put too much emphasis on her. She was important, but she's just as important as any other woman. So just to, she was sharing that with me, just saying about our Blessed Mother. And so I actually was on the parish council. And again, I think we can certainly ask questions, but respectfully, and we have to choose the right time or ask for the Holy Spirit for the right time. And so I did. I asked the Father at that time, because we were talking about how do we, again, get kids to attend and parents be involved. Anyway, to the point, he did say, he said, you need to not worry about that. And so there was an admission, but yet it was almost as if, how hard it is to get CCD teachers. We need to not worry about those things, and we need to, be thankful that she was there. So in that situation, I just felt strongly that, to take our children, who are our responsibility, and take them to another parish. We continue to go to that parish, but for CCD, we started taking them to another parish. So that was my situation, and I'll hang up and hear your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. I can totally relate to what Patricia's saying, Adam, because I dealt with this for many years as a religious education director. Thank goodness I had a pastor that was right by the book and was an amazing priest, and he would not allow just putting bodies into the classrooms just because you needed religious education teachers.
I ran into this, Deb. I took a course at a very prominent Catholic university as prepping to start canon law school, and the teacher was a Protestant minister who had an expertise in a particular area, and they were working at this Catholic school. Now, when certain things came up that were kind of specific to the Catholic faith, and like Mary, that a lot of Protestants have an issue with how Catholics approach Mary, and we understand her, he was very good, and he said, I fully understand, this is the Catholic take on this, and he didn't disparage or say that you're wrong or, anything. He handled it well and said, I'm Protestant, but I fully understand this is the doctrine. And he was able to quote, the doctrine and understood the Catholic approach and was respectful of that. And if you're going to work for a Catholic university or work as a director or work as a teacher of religion for a Catholic parish, you would think that you would have agreed that when it comes to things like and you're Protestant, right? And you have some expertise. You'd think that you would agree before doing that, that when it comes to those issues, you're not gonna like be inside disparaging the church and trying to turn kids into Protestants, right?
But it does happen.
Oh yeah.
I will tell you, it does happen. People bring their agendas into the classroom on the parish at the parish level, and it happens all the time. So back to the scenario. Get clarification from the person that said it. Follow up. But I do think it is important. We get it all the time on Catholic radio. I mean, and the reason is because people are tuning in and out. They're half listening. They're doing something else as they're listening. We get it all the time. We'll have people call into the station and say, we think, Debbie Georgianni said this. And I'm like, no, that's not what I said. You only heard half the comment,
Right.
and it happens all the time. So, but do you think it's our responsibility? I mean, we titled this show, Don't Be the Church Police. Do you think it's our responsibility as parishioners to confront the youth minister or ask Father, was this said in youth group?
Well, yes, you have a responsibility. Parents canonically have the primary responsibility for raising their children in the faith and catechizing them. The church has a responsibility to catechize them, of course, but since Vatican II, the church has really recognized that the parents need to take that responsibility seriously. That given they're with the child all the time, they're going to, they've spent years with the child, that they need to take that seriously. So, yes, it is your responsibility to look into it, especially if it's some critical thing, like the example you gave of somebody saying that Mary was just like every other woman and it's nothing special about her. That's a big issue for the formation of a Catholic youth. And the parents do have a responsibility to follow up and look into that and verify it, and then let the pastor know, because the pastor should want to know that was being taught.
Right. And if it's not handled at the parish level and it's very serious and you do, take it to the bishop, put your name on and be very polite about it and
Yes.
but put your name on it, because anonymous things are not taken. I know at our diocese we just don't, because we don't know where they're coming from. So if it's that important, you should be able to put your name on it. Okay, I have a suggestion, Adam, and I'm not being facetious. I'm really being serious. Okay, we have to make room for Mondays with Monsignor Charles Pope, and I'm so excited because Monsignor Pope is talking about his book, 500 Questions, Catholic and Curious. His 500 questions, answers and questions to what Catholics are thinking about or misunderstandings about things and stuff like that. See, every catechist should read that book. That's what they should do, Adam. They should read that book, because I'm sure Monsignor Charles Pope was very thorough in it. It's 500 questions. So he'll be talking about that, but that's for take 2, and it'll be airing on July 3rd. So just in a couple days, if you want to hear that wonderful conversation. But that's totally unrelated to this what would you do scenario. So Adam, to just wrap it up, some parishioners will say, I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to jeopardize my position at the church. I don't want to make it uncomfortable for me and my family. I don't want Father to look at me differently. I don't want the youth minister to target my kid and think that my kid's a tattletaling and stuff like that. I don't even know if you still use that word. That's a 1960s word. But what do you say? What's our responsibility again? Do we indeed, or should we take what our kids are saying seriously when sometimes it is true? The youth, sometimes they half listen too.
Yeah, I do think we need to take it seriously and look into it. Don't have a huge emotional reaction and go overboard and immediately write to the bishop, assuming that that's exactly what was said. Verify it, give the person a chance to respond, and then go to the pastor who's responsible for that education program. And then if you still feel strongly about it and you don't think the response was appropriate, write to the diocese. Now, writing directly to the bishop is probably not the best route to go. You could write to perhaps the education department at the diocese,
right,
or the vicar general.
Or the vicar general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't expect the bishop to call you back in an hour and discuss it, because they're flooded with so much work.
Right. And the other thing I would say to Patricia, who called in, is that I think that was a smart move, moving your teen to another parish that's going to do it the right way. It's a terrible thing just to fill the classrooms just because you have to. That happened to us one time when I was a religious education director, and what we did is we just had all the good teachers double up and take more kids in their classroom. We just didn't put bodies in the classrooms. It's too serious. Formation is a very important thing that we do as a ministry in the church for our children, and it should be done well. Okay, Adam, have a beautiful rest of your day. I'll see you, God willing, tomorrow. We're going to send it back to Keith for the rest of Morning Joy.
All righty. Thank you so much, Debbie and Adam. And also thanks to Patricia and Abby for calling in this morning. Hey, real quick, did you miss the latest episode of the Gabriel Award-winning show, The Spirit World, this weekend? Yeah, Debbie and Adam tackled the rise of New Age thinking and how it connects to the ancient heresy of Gnosticism and what they call the, quote-unquote, the heresy that just won't die. Catch the replay at either grnonline.com, or you can search The Spirit World or The Spirit World Podcast wherever you listen to those podcasts. We also recommend going over to the YouTube channel, not only to watch and catch up on The Spirit World, but to also do it somewhat soon, because later, after we talk with Steve Ray, we're going to be doing the roundtable discussion online only. It's a great way for us to extend the conversation and hang out with you. But hey, coming up after the break, Monsignor Charles Pope is joining us to walk through 5 bold truths from the life of St. Peter. I mean, if you've ever felt like a failure in faith or long to be used by God despite your flaws, you're not going to want to miss this. We'll be right back after this quick break.
You're listening to Morning Joy, where truth matters.